The Galactic Council chamber fell silent. 500 representatives from across the stars sat in tiered seats that formed a perfect circle. At the center floated a three-dimensional map showing a massive fleet of warships moving toward a small blue planet. The Zoraxian invasion force will reach the Sol system in 30 Earth days, announced High Counselor Vex, his 8 eyes blinking in sequence. His gray skin reflected the red light from the holographic ships. We must decide our response now. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 3 years ago. The discovery of faster-than-light travel had barely given humans time to establish their first colonies on Mars before they encountered the vast interstellar community that had existed for millennia. The humans' technology is primitive, said Representative Mortok of the Zentari Dominion. His voice rasped through translator devices. Their weapons are no match for Zoraxian battlecruisers. Their defeat is certain. Around the chamber, heads nodded and tentacles waved in agreement. Zalthur, a tall, thin alien with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer like water, stood up. As a diplomatic specialist who had studied Earth extensively, he felt obligated to speak. The Council Charter requires us to defend all member worlds, he reminded them. His voice was calm but firm. High Counselor Vex flicked a long finger and the hologram zoomed out to show the Council's defensive fleets scattered across dozens of star systems. We lack sufficient forces to mount a proper defense of Earth while protecting our core worlds. The Zoraxians have chosen their timing well. The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for token resistance. Others suggested evacuating valuable humans, scientists, artists, and genetic samples to preserve their species. A few called for full military commitment despite the risks. In the end, they voted. The results appeared on every screen in the chamber. No direct military intervention. Limited evacuation support only. The decision was final. I will inform the humans, Zalthur volunteered, his disappointment evident despite his attempt to remain professional. 3 days later, Zalthur's diplomatic vessel entered Earth's atmosphere. The sleek silver ship descended toward the United Nations headquarters in New York. Through the viewports, he observed the busy city below. Humans moved about their daily lives, unaware of the coming storm. Inside the UN building, representatives from Earth's nations waited in the main assembly hall. Zalthur was escorted to a podium at the front of the room. Faces turned to him, some curious, others anxious, all waiting for news from the stars. Admiral Helena Chen sat in the front row. At 55, she had risen through military ranks to become Earth's primary military liaison to the Galactic Council. Her short black hair showed streaks of gray, and her uniform bore the insignia of the newly formed Earth Defense Force. Representatives of Earth, Zalthur began, his translator converting his musical language into English. I bring word from the Galactic Council regarding the approaching Zoraxian fleet. He explained the Council's decision, watching as expressions shifted from hope to disbelief to anger. Let me understand clearly, Admiral Chen said, standing up. Her voice remained controlled despite her obvious frustration. The Council has decided to abandon Earth to face this invasion alone? Not abandon, Zalthur corrected. We offer evacuation for up to 1 million of your most valuable citizens. Scientists, cultural leaders, genetic diversity samples. You want us to choose 1 million people to save while leaving billions to die? The American president interrupted, face flushed with anger. The Council believes resistance would be futile, Zalthur explained. The Zoraxians have conquered 12 worlds in the past century. None survived with their civilization intact. Admiral Chen approached the podium. Show us these Zoraxians. Show us their ships, their weapons, everything you have. Zalthur hesitated, then activated his data projector. Images appeared in the air. Massive ships with sharp angular designs. Dark metal covered in weapon ports. Then came images of the Zoraxians themselves. Tall, muscular beings with thick exoskeletons and 4 arms, each ending in pincer-like appendages. They evolved as apex predators, Zalthur explained. Their society values conquest above all else. They see other species as either threats to eliminate or resources to exploit. The room grew quiet as videos played showing Zoraxian invasions of other worlds, cities burning, strange alien structures collapsing under bombardment. When the presentation ended, Admiral Chen stood again. How many ships in their fleet? 117 major warships plus support vessels, Zalthur answered. Their weaknesses? They have few. Their technology is advanced. Their warriors fight to the death. The room erupted in heated discussions. Nations argued about accepting the evacuation offer, about surrendering versus fighting. Some demanded the council reconsider its decision. Finally, Admiral Chen called for silence. Ambassador Zalthur, please inform the council that Earth respectfully declines the evacuation offer. Zalthur's eyes widened. You cannot be serious. Without help, your species faces extinction. We understand the risks, Admiral Chen replied. Her back straightened, shoulders squared. Humanity has faced threats throughout our history. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and our own destructive tendencies. We will face this threat as we have faced others, together and on our feet, not running away. The assembly broke into applause. Not everyone agreed, but the majority seemed to support this stand. Zalthur looked bewildered. This is not a natural disaster or a war with your own kind. The Zoraxians possess technology centuries beyond yours. Your bravery is admirable but misplaced. Perhaps, Chen acknowledged, but it's our choice to make. We request instead that the Council share any tactical information about Zoraxian warfare, their strategies, their technologies, anything that might help us prepare. Zalthur considered this. Council protocol allowed sharing such information with member worlds.
I will send what data we have, he agreed.
But I urge you to reconsider. At least allow us to evacuate your children. Our families stay together, said the Chinese representative firmly. We stand as one people. Later that evening, Zalthur sat in his temporary quarters at the UN complex. Through his window, he watched the lights of New York City shining in the darkness. So much life, so much activity, all under threat of extinction. He couldn't understand the human's decision. His communication device activated, showing the face of High Counselor Vex. Have you delivered our offer? The counselor asked. Yes, Zalthur replied. They have declined evacuation. They intend to fight. Vex's 8 eyes blinked in surprise. Curious. Most species accept survival over pride. I don't think it's pride, Zalthur said slowly. It's something else. They believe they can win despite all evidence. Their belief is irrelevant against Zoraxian weapons, Vex stated flatly. Return to Council space, Zalthur. You have fulfilled your duty. With respect, High Counselor, I request permission to remain on Earth as an observer. The data could be valuable for future encounters with these Zoraxians. Vex considered this. Very well. But you go at your own risk. The Council will not authorize a rescue mission if the situation deteriorates. I understand, Zalthur said. After the communication ended, Zalthur continued watching the city. In the distance, he could see military vehicles moving through the streets. Aircraft patrolled overhead. Earth was preparing for war. Against his better judgment, a small part of him wanted to see what these humans would do when faced with impossible odds. In his centuries of diplomatic service, he had never encountered a species that chose to fight when defeat seemed so certain. As dawn broke over the city, Admiral Chen knocked on his door. Ambassador, we're convening an emergency defense council. Your presence would be valuable. Zalthur nodded. I will attend. As they walked down the hallway together, Chen asked, Do you think we're fools for trying to fight? Zalthur considered his answer carefully. I think you are unlike any species I have encountered. Whether that makes you fools or something else entirely remains to be seen. Chen smiled slightly. That's fair enough. We'll show you which one it is. Above Earth, satellites detected the first distortions in space, signs of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. The Zoraxian scouts had arrived ahead of the main fleet. The invasion had begun. 25 days until the main Zoraxian fleet arrived. Earth buzzed like a disturbed beehive. In Washington, D.C., Admiral Helena Chen stared at the wall of screens in the newly established Global Defense Headquarters. Each screen showed different activities around the world. Factories running day and night. Military bases overflowing with new recruits. Scientists working in laboratories without pause. Status report, Chen demanded, her voice steady despite her fatigue. Colonel Ramirez stepped forward. The orbital defense platforms are at 60% completion. The lunar base has been converted to a forward operating station. All nuclear weapons have been repositioned according to plan. Chen nodded. It wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. But it was more progress than anyone had thought possible 3 weeks ago. The door slid open, and Zalthur entered. The alien ambassador had stayed on Earth watching humanity's preparations with increasing interest. "You should see this," Zalthar said, placing a small device on the table. It projected images of the Galactic Council in session. On the holographic display, Council representatives argued heatedly. Many gestured toward charts showing predictions of Earth's defeat. Others pointed to evacuation plans that had been rejected. High Counselor Vex looked particularly frustrated. "The Council remains divided about your situation," Zalthar explained. "Some believe we should force evacuation regardless of your wishes. Others argue we should respect your choice even if they consider it unwise." "And what do you think, Ambassador?" Chen asked, studying the alien's silvery face. Zalthar's expression was difficult to read. "I think you have surprised me. I did not expect your world to unite so quickly or prepare so effectively." "Humans are good in a crisis," Chen said with a small smile. "Nothing brings us together like a common enemy. Even so, I must be honest. Your technology remains far behind the Zoraxians. The Council's simulations give you less than a 10% chance of repelling the invasion." Chen's smile didn't waver. "Then we'll have to improve those odds." She led Zalthar to another section of the headquarters, where a team of scientists and engineers, huddled around strange-looking devices, hybrid technologies, combining Earth's best weapons with insights gleaned from the Galactic Council's shared databases. Dr. Samantha Wong, Earth's leading quantum physicist, looked up from her work. "Admiral, we've successfully integrated the particle acceleration concept from the Zentari defense systems. It's crude compared to their version, but it boosts our laser weapons' power by 300%. Zalthar looked stunned. "You've replicated Zentari technology in 3 weeks?" "That's impossible." "Not replicated," Dr. Wong corrected. "Adapted. We don't understand all the principles yet, but we understand enough to improve what we already have." Across the room, a team of engineers worked on what looked like a fighter jet with strange modifications. Its wings bore unusual patterns and its engines glowed with an eerie blue light. "Atmospheric fighters with gravity manipulation systems," Chen explained, "based on fragments of information about Zoraxian ship movements. They won't match Zoraxian speeds, but they'll be more maneuverable than anything we've ever built." Zalthar moved from station to station, his surprise growing. Humans weren't trying to copy alien technology wholesale. They were taking concepts and integrating them with their existing systems in creative ways he hadn't considered possible. "The Council believed your technological development was too linear," Zalthar said slowly, "that you couldn't make the necessary leaps in time." "We're good at improvising," Chen replied. "It may not be pretty, but it works." Outside, through the massive windows, they could see workers assembling enormous satellite dishes pointed skyward. "Early warning system?" Zalthar asked. "Partly," Chen said. "Also our first line of defense. They're designed to disrupt Zoraxian communications based on the frequency data you provided." For the first time, Zalthar felt a flicker of hope for these humans. Their approach was unconventional, even crude by Council standards. But there was an ingenuity to it that the carefully planned, millennium-developed technologies of most Council races lacked. Later that day, leaders from around the world gathered for a virtual meeting. On screens appeared the faces of presidents, prime ministers, kings, and military commanders, all focused on a single purpose. "The Russian Space Force has completed deployment of the orbital mines," reported the Russian president. "They are cloaked using the technology adapted from Council stealth systems. China has converted our entire industrial capacity to producing the modified defense systems," added the Chinese premier. "The first batches are already being distributed globally. European laboratories have synthesized the armor compound," said the German chancellor. "Production begins tomorrow." One by one, nations reported their progress. Old enemies worked together. Resources flowed across borders without hesitation. The planet's entire economy had shifted to war footing in less than a month. Zalthar observed it all from the back of the room, sending regular reports to the Council. His messages grew increasingly contemplative, focusing not just on the technical preparations but on the spirit driving them. "Humanity displays remarkable cohesion under existential threat," he wrote in one report. "Their historical divisions appear temporarily suspended. Whether this unity will withstand the first Zoraxian assault remains to be seen, but it is more complete than Council models predicted." 17 days before the main fleet's arrival, The Zoraxian advanced scouts made their first move. 3 scout ships entered Earth orbit, scanning the planet's defenses. In orbit, one of the hastily completed defense platforms detected the scouts. Following predetermined protocols, it remained powered down, gathering data rather than engaging. On Earth, Admiral Chen and her team watched the scouts' movements. "They're mapping our obvious defenses," she noted. "Good. Let them see what we want them to see." The scouts spent 3 days examining Earth before retreating to the outer solar system. They transmitted their findings to the approaching main fleet. "What did they report?" Chen asked Zalthur, who had been monitoring Zoraxian communications using Council equipment. "They believe your defenses are substantial but conventional," the ambassador replied. "They see the orbital platforms, the missile systems, the fleet of aircraft. They are adjusting their invasion plan, but they remain confident." Chen nodded. "They didn't detect the lunar base or the submarine fleet?" "It appears not. The stealth measures were effective." "Good," Chen said with grim satisfaction. "Let them think they know what they're facing." 10 days before the main fleet's arrival, the Zoraxians sent their message. It appeared on every screen across Earth simultaneously, a technological display meant to demonstrate their superiority. A Zoraxian commander appeared, his exoskeleton gleaming with decorations that marked his many victories. Behind him stood warriors at attention, all 4 arms bearing weapons. "People of Earth," the commander's words were translated into all major languages. "I am Fleet Commander Krovek of the Zoraxian Empire. Your world has been selected for conquest and integration into our dominion. Your resources will serve our expansion. Your people will serve our needs." The camera panned to show footage of other conquered worlds, alien cities in ruins, strange beings in restraints, mining operations stripping planets bare. Resistance is futile but expected. We honor worthy opponents by allowing them to fight before they fall. Those who surrender immediately will be granted worker status. Those who resist will be eliminated. The message ended with a countdown timer, 10 days until their arrival. Rather than causing panic, the message hardened humanity's resolve. Enlistment in defense forces tripled overnight. Production of weapons and supplies accelerated further. In the Global Defense Headquarters, Chen reviewed the final preparations with her international team of commanders. "The Zoraxians expect us to either surrender or mount a conventional defense," she said. "They're prepared for both scenarios. What they're not prepared for is this." She revealed the complete Earth defense plan, a strategy unlike anything in recorded Council history. It combined Earth's traditional military doctrine with radical new approaches based on human history and the adapted alien technology. Guerrilla warfare on a planetary scale. General Okonkwo from Nigeria said, nodding in approval. "Hiding our true strength until the critical moment." Multiple redundant systems, added Field Marshal Wang from Singapore. "No single point of failure. And psychological warfare," said Director Petrov of Russia's Space Forces, using their expectations against them. As the meeting concluded, Zalthur approached Chen privately. "Your strategy is unorthodox by Council standards," he said carefully. "Is that a diplomatic way of saying it won't work?" Chen asked. "No," Zalthur replied, surprising himself with his answer. "It's a diplomatic way of saying the Council has never considered such approaches. Our military doctrine has become standardized over millennia. Predictable, perhaps. And the Zoraxians, are their strategies also predictable?" "Yes," Zalthur admitted. "They have conquered many worlds using the same basic approach." "Overwhelming force applied according to tested patterns," Chen smiled. "Then we have a chance." 3 days before the main fleet's arrival, Earth held its breath. Civilian populations had been moved to hardened shelters or underground facilities. Military forces were positioned according to the global strategy. The improvised alien hue. The Zoraxian fleet appeared in Earth's orbit exactly as predicted. 117 warships materialized in perfect formation, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. Smaller vessels swarmed around them like insects around giants. In the Global Defense Headquarters, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Helena Chen watched the main view screen with steady eyes. Around her, military leaders from every major nation stood in tense silence. Zalthur, the Galactic Council observer, stood slightly apart, his silvery skin reflecting the red alert lights. "They're deploying in standard Zoraxian conquest formation," reported Colonel Ramirez, studying sensor data, just as the Council records indicated they would. Chen nodded. Are they scanning our defenses? Yes, Admiral. Their sensors are active across all spectrums. Good. Let them see what we want them to see. Chen pressed a button on her command console. All units maintain Protocol Alpha. I repeat, maintain Protocol Alpha. Across Earth and in orbit, defense forces remained in their visible positions, the ones the Zoraxians had already detected. Meanwhile, the hidden elements of Earth's defense plan stayed concealed. Waiting for the right moment, on the main Zoraxian command ship, Fleet Commander Krovak studied the holographic display of Earth's defenses. His forearms remained folded across his armored chest, his posture indicating confidence. Primitive, he noted to his subcommanders. They have orbital platforms and missile systems, but their technology is basic. Their fleet of aircraft uses simple combustion engines. Their ground forces are scattered in predictable defensive positions. They appear to have attempted some improvements based on Council technology, observed his chief science officer, pointing to energy readings from some of Earth's weapons. But the implementations are crude and inefficient. Krovak made a clicking sound that indicated amusement. As expected, the Council has always been slow to share meaningful technology with new members. He turned to his war strategist. Recommend attack pattern. Standard planetary subjugation sequence, Commander, replied the strategist. Begin with orbital bombardment of military installations, followed by precision strikes on government facilities. Once resistance is broken, deploy ground forces to secure primary resource centers. Proceed, ordered Krovak. Let us show these humans the futility of resistance. The Zoraxian fleet moved into attack positions. Weapon ports opened along the hulls of the massive warships. Energy began to build, visible as a glowing purple light that intensified with each passing second. In the defense headquarters, tension mounted as everyone watched the enemy preparations. They're charging weapons, announced Colonel Ramirez. Energy signatures matched the Council's records of Zoraxian plasma cannons. Admiral Chen's expression remained calm. Time to show them our first surprise. Activate lunar defense grid. On the far side of the moon, hidden from Earth and the Zoraxian fleet, a massive installation hummed to life. Built in secret over the past 3 weeks, it housed Earth's first line of truly innovative defense, a gravity manipulation system inspired by fragments of Council technology, but implemented in a way no Council race had attempted. The system didn't target the Zoraxian ships directly. Instead, it created a subtle gravitational lens between Earth and the fleet, bending space just enough to affect targeting systems. On the Zoraxian command ship, alarm suddenly blared. Commander, targeting systems are experiencing unexplained drift, reported the weapons officer, his pincers clicking rapidly over control surfaces. Compensating now. Krovak frowned, the plates of his exoskeleton shifting. A simple gravitational anomaly. Adjust and fire. The Zoraxian fleet launched its first attack. Massive bolts of purple energy streaked toward Earth, aimed at military bases and defense installations. But something strange happened. The bolts diverged slightly from their intended paths. Some missed completely. Others hit with reduced effectiveness. On Earth, damage reports flooded in, but far less than expected. Lunar gravity system performing above expectations, reported Dr. Wong from her station. 63% of incoming fire diverted or degraded. Now for Phase 2, ordered Chen. Activate orbital mines. Throughout the space around Earth, hundreds of small devices that had appeared to be debris or disabled satellites suddenly activated. They streaked toward the Zoraxian ships, moving in unpredictable patterns. Primitive missiles, scoffed Krovak as his sensors detected the approaching objects. Intercept them. The Zoraxian fleet fired defensive weapons, destroying many of the approaching devices. But when the remaining ones reached their targets, they didn't explode as expected. Instead, they attached to the hulls and began drilling. What is this? Demanded Krovak as status reports flooded in. They appear to be some form of boarding device, replied his security chief. They're penetrating our outer hulls. Inside the mines were not explosives, but swarms of microscopic robots. Earth's best attempt at replicating the self-repairing systems mentioned in Council technical archives. Once inside the Zoraxian ships, they began attacking critical systems from within. Ships throughout the Zoraxian fleet reported failures in navigation, weapons, and communication systems. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to create confusion and delay. In the defense headquarters, Chen watched the Zoraxian fleet's formations begin to waver. They're distracted. Launch counter-offensive Alpha. From hidden bases around Earth, squadrons of fighter craft took off. They didn't match the Zoraxian ships in technology, but they had been modified with one crucial advantage: stealth systems that made them nearly invisible to Zoraxian sensors. The Earth fighters slipped through gaps in the Zoraxian formation, targeting vulnerable points identified in Council records. Their weapons, conventional missiles enhanced with adapted alien technology, caused more damage than they should have been able to inflict. On the Galactic Council observation platform, representatives watched the battle with growing astonishment. "The humans are fighting back effectively," asked a Zentari delegate, her tentacles twisting in confusion. "How is this possible?" High Counselor Vex leaned forward, his 8 eyes fixed on the tactical display. "They're using our data on Zoraxian weaknesses, and they're implementing it in ways we never considered. But their technology is centuries behind," protested another council member. "Yet they're compensating through tactics and innovation," noted Vex. "Fascinating." Back on Earth, Admiral Chen received the first major setback. "Southern orbital platform destroyed," reported Colonel Ramirez. "European defense grid taking heavy damage." Chen nodded grimly. "Casualties?" "Minimal. Most personnel evacuated to secondary positions as planned." "Redirect Atlantic submarine fleet to launch position Beta," Chen ordered. "It's time to show them we can hit back hard." Beneath the Atlantic Ocean, a fleet of nuclear submarines quietly changed position, modified to carry not just nuclear missiles but weapons based on adapted Council technology. They represented Earth's hidden striking power. The submarines launched their missiles not up toward the Zoraxian fleet, but toward the moon. This confused the Zoraxian sensors, which tracked the missiles but couldn't determine their purpose. As the missiles approached the moon, they used its gravity to accelerate and change direction, slingshotting back toward the Zoraxian fleet from an unexpected angle and at increased velocity. On his command ship, Krovak watched in disbelief as the missiles appeared seemingly from nowhere and struck 5 of his warships simultaneously. 2 exploded completely. 3 others began listing, severely damaged. "Impossible," he raged. "How did primitive missiles penetrate our shields?" His science officer studied the data frantically. "They used the moon's gravity to accelerate beyond our defense parameters, and they appear to contain some form of adapted Council technology that our shields weren't configured to block." For the first time in his long military career, Krovak felt uncertainty. This was not proceeding according to any conquest scenario he had experienced. In the Global Defense Headquarters, a cheer went up as the Zoraxian ships exploded. Even Zalthur found himself joining in, then stopped in surprise at his own reaction. 5 enemy capital ships destroyed, confirmed Colonel Ramirez. That's more than the Zoraxians have lost in their last 3 planetary conquests combined. Chen didn't join the celebration. "They'll adapt quickly," she warned. "Prepare for their response." Indeed, the Zoraxian fleet was already regrouping. The remaining ships formed a tighter defensive formation and launched a wave of smaller craft toward Earth. Dropships, Chen identified. "They're changing tactics, moving to ground invasion earlier than expected. All ground forces prepare for enemy landing." The Zoraxian dropships streaked through Earth's atmosphere, heading for major cities and strategic locations. Defense forces fired upon them, downing many, but others got through. In fields outside Beijing, forests near Moscow, deserts around Cairo, and dozens of other locations, Zoraxian troops emerged from their landing craft. 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor and carrying advanced weapons, they expected to overwhelm human resistance quickly. Instead, they found empty landing zones. Earth forces had withdrawn from obvious defensive positions, leaving behind something the Zorax. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from hundreds of worlds packed the tiered seats, with many more watching through holographic connections. All eyes focused on the central display showing the ongoing battle for Earth. High Counselor Vex called for order as debates raged across the chamber. "The situation has evolved beyond our predictions," he admitted reluctantly. "The humans have survived the initial Zoraxian assault with significant portions of their defense capability intact." "Impossible," shouted a representative from the Talaxian collective. Their technology is primitive. Yet the evidence is before us, replied Vex, gesturing to the display where Earth forces continued to engage the Zoraxian fleet. 7 Zoraxian capital ships destroyed. Dozens of landing forces repelled. No other world has achieved such results in the first phase of a Zoraxian invasion. Zalthur's transmission appeared on a secondary screen. The Council ambassador's face showed signs of fatigue, but also something else, a growing respect for the humans he had been observing. Honorable Council, Zalthur began. I must report that human resistance exceeds all parameters in our predictive models. They have adapted Council technology in ways we never considered and implemented tactical innovations that the Zoraxians have never encountered. How? Demanded a senior military advisor. They've had access to Council records for only 3 years. I believe it relates to their evolutionary history, Zalthur replied. Unlike most Council species, humans evolved as both prey and predator. They understand both perspectives intimately. They know what it means to be hunted, and they know how to hunt. The chamber fell silent as Zalthur continued. Additionally, their fractured political history has produced multiple military doctrines rather than a single approach. They're implementing all of them simultaneously, making it impossible for the Zoraxians to counter effectively. High Counselor Vex's 8 eyes blinked in sequence as he processed this information. The Council must reconsider its position. I call for a new vote regarding intervention. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Chen prepared for the next phase of humanity's defense. The Global Defense Headquarters had been relocated to a backup facility after the primary command center took a direct hit from Zoraxian weapons. Status report, Chen ordered, ignoring the bandage on her forehead where debris had struck her during the evacuation. Zoraxian fleet has regrouped in high orbit, reported Colonel Ramirez. They're maintaining bombardment of major military installations, but have suspended ground landings temporarily. And our forces? Orbital defenses at 30% capacity, ground forces at 65%. The submarine fleet remains largely intact. Most importantly, our hidden assets are still undetected. Chen nodded and turned to the assembled military leaders. The Zoraxians are pausing to reassess. They've never faced this level of resistance before. That gives us a critical window to implement the next phase. She activated the main tactical display, showing a detailed map of Earth and the positions of both human and Zoraxian forces. Operation Trojan begins now. Across Earth, military units that had been fighting defensively suddenly changed tactics. Small, fast-moving teams targeted damaged Zoraxian landing craft that had been abandoned after delivering troops. In the forests outside Vancouver, Canadian Special Forces secured a Zoraxian shuttle. In the outback of Australia, another team captured a damaged scout ship. Similar operations took place in Brazil, South Africa, and a dozen other locations. What are they doing? Asked a council representative, watching the human activities with confusion. They're capturing Zoraxian technology, Zalthur explained. But I don't understand why they would focus on damaged vessels when they should be reinforcing their defenses. The answer came 3 hours later when the captured Zoraxian craft suddenly lifted off from their various locations around Earth. Each had been hastily repaired and now flew with human pilots at the controls. On the Zoraxian command ship, Fleet Commander Krovak received alarming reports. Multiple ships approaching our formation, his sensor officer announced. They match Zoraxian signatures, but they're being piloted erratically. Krovak stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Humans are piloting our own ships? How is this possible? The neural interfaces require Zoraxian physiology. They appear to have bypassed the neural interfaces completely, replied his science officer. They're using mechanical controls. The human-piloted Zoraxian vessels approached the invasion fleet. When challenged with identification codes, they responded correctly, using codes extracted from the ship's own computers. They cannot be allowed to infiltrate our formation, Krovak ordered. Destroy those ships immediately! But the confusion had already spread through the Zoraxian fleet. Some ships hesitated to fire on what appeared to be their own vessels. Others couldn't get clear shots without risking damage to friendly ships. The captured vessels weaved through the Zoraxian formation, seemingly erratic, but following a precise plan. Each approached a specific capital ship, then suddenly accelerated to maximum speed. "They're on suicide runs," shouted Krovak as he realized the humans' intent. The captured vessels slammed into their targets with devastating effect. Not only did the impacts cause significant damage, but the human pilots had modified the engines to overload upon impact, creating explosions far more powerful than should have been possible. 3 more Zoraxian capital ships were destroyed. 7 others suffered severe damage. The carefully organized formation broke apart as ships maneuvered frantically to avoid additional suicide attacks. In the defense headquarters, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 of Operation Trojan complete. Initiate Phase 2. As the Zoraxian fleet scattered, Earth revealed its next surprise. From hidden bases on Earth's surface, a new wave of fighters launched, each carrying what appeared to be a simple missile, but these weren't conventional weapons. Each contained a quantum communications disruptor, designed based on fragments of Council technology, but implemented in a uniquely human way. The missiles detonated in the space around the Zoraxian fleet, not causing physical damage but creating fields of quantum disruption that severed communications between Zoraxian ships. Cut off from Central Command and from each other, individual Zoraxian captains were forced to act independently, something their rigid military hierarchy had never prepared them for. On the Council observation platform, military analysts watched in astonishment. "They're fragmenting the Zoraxian command structure," one noted, "forcing decentralized decision-making on a species that has relied on hierarchical control for millennia." High Counselor Vex turned to his advisors. "Have we ever seen this strategy employed against the Zoraxians before?" "Never," replied the chief military advisor. "All previous resistance focused on matching Zoraxian firepower or seeking diplomatic resolution. No one has targeted their command structure in this manner." As the Zoraxian fleet struggled to re-establish communications and coordination, Earth launched its counteroffensive. From every continent, aircraft rose into the sky. Thousands of them, far more than the Zoraxians had detected in their initial scans. These weren't the obvious military craft that had been visible from the beginning. These were civilian aircraft, emergency vehicles, even crop dusters, all hastily converted for military use and equipped with weapons based on adapted alien technology. The Earth aircraft swarmed toward the disorganized Zoraxian vessels. Individually, none posed a serious threat to the advanced alien ships, but together, attacking from all directions simultaneously, they overwhelmed the Zoraxians' ability to target and defend. Fleet. Commander Krovak watched in growing horror as his invasion force, the pride of the Zoraxian Empire, found itself on the defensive against a supposedly primitive species. "Order all ships to regroup at coordinates Alpha 7, he commanded. "We must re-establish formation and communications." But his orders couldn't reach most of the fleet. The quantum disruption fields continued to block communications, and the constant harassment from Earth aircraft prevented effective regrouping. In desperation, Krovak made a decision unprecedented in Zoraxian military history. "Prepare my personal shuttle. I will deliver commands directly to our primary battle groups." His officers protested, but Krovak's mind was made up. As the Zoraxian leader's shuttle departed the command ship, Earth sensors detected the movement immediately. "High-value target identified," announced Colonel Ramirez in the defense headquarters. "Energy signatures indicate a command-level vessel." Admiral Chen studied the data. "That's Krovak himself. He's trying to manually coordinate his fleet." She turned to her staff. "All available intercept units converge on that shuttle. This is our opportunity to decapitate their command structure." Squadron after squadron of Earth fighters changed course, focusing on the Zoraxian commander's shuttle. Krovak's escorts fought fiercely, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer number of attackers. Realizing he was trapped, Krovak made another unprecedented decision. His shuttle transmitted on all frequencies. "This is Fleet Commander Krovak. I request communication with the human leadership." In the defense headquarters, silence fell as the message was received. "Is he surrendering?" asked General Okonkwo in disbelief. "No," Chen replied, studying the Zoraxian's body language on the screen. "He's playing for time, but we'll hear him out." Dawn broke over a tense Earth. In 6 hours, Fleet Commander Krovak's deadline for consultation with the Zoraxian Imperial Command would expire. Military units across the planet remained on high alert, weapons primed and soldiers at their posts. Admiral Helena Chen had not slept. She stood in the secondary command center, studying the holographic display of Earth and the surrounding space. The Zoraxian fleet had pulled back to a higher orbit, but remained in attack formation. No ships had departed the system, not a good sign. "They're going to attack again," Chen said quietly to Colonel Ramirez, who handed her a fresh cup of coffee. "That's my assessment as well, Admiral," Ramirez agreed. "The Zoraxians have never withdrawn from a conquest. Their entire culture revolves around victory or death." Chen sipped the bitter coffee. "Then we need to be ready for their most desperate measures. What's the status of our remaining defenses? Orbital platforms at 25% capacity. Planetary defense systems at 58%. The submarine fleet is fully operational. Our adapted alien technology systems are at varying levels of functionality. Some at full capacity, others barely working." Ramirez paused. "We've lost 38% of our air forces and 42% of our ground troops." Chen nodded grimly. "Heavy losses, but less than expected against such a technologically superior enemy. And our final contingency? Operation Last Light is ready," Ramirez confirmed. "Though I pray we won't need it." The door slid open and Zalthar entered. The Galactic Council ambassador looked as tired as the humans, his normally shimmering silver skin now dull with fatigue. "Admiral, I've received an update from the Council," he announced. "Their defense fleet has increased speed and will arrive in 36 hours instead of 48. "That's something," Chen acknowledged, "though I doubt the Zoraxians will wait that long to make their move." "There's more," Zalthar continued. "The Council has been monitoring Zoraxian communications. They've detected transmissions between Krovak's fleet and the Imperial Command. The content was encrypted, but the analysis suggests Krovak has been ordered to complete the conquest at any cost." "Any cost," repeated Chen. "That's what I was afraid of. They'll use their most devastating weapons." Zalthar nodded solemnly. "It appears likely. The Zoraxians rarely deploy planetary devastators, but when faced with a humiliating defeat..." The Admiral turned to her staff. "Inform all commands. We expect the Zoraxians to escalate to maximum force. Implement Defensive Protocol Omega immediately." As orders spread across Earth's defense network, activity intensified. Hidden weapons platforms emerged from their concealment. The remaining submarines changed position, moving to their designated launch points. Civilians were directed to the deepest shelters. In orbit, the Zoraxian fleet began to move. The remaining ships formed a new pattern, a spear-like formation with the largest remaining warships at the tip. "They're positioning for a concentrated strike," observed General Okonkwo, watching the tactical display. "Focusing all firepower on a single target area." "Where?" asked Chen, studying the formation. Colonel Ramirez ran a quick analysis. "Tracking their current vector, they appear to be targeting North America, specifically the eastern seaboard of the United States." Chen's expression hardened. "They're going for a decapitation strike. They think our primary command and government facilities are still there." She allowed herself a small smile. "Let them think that." The Zoraxian formation continued its approach, the massive ships moving with ominous purpose. On the command ship, Fleet Commander Krovak stood rigidly at his control station. His exoskeleton showed new battle scars, and his posture conveyed both determination and anger. "Final weapons check," he ordered. "Prepare the planetary devastator for deployment." "Commander," his second-in-command spoke hesitantly. "The Imperial Command authorized the devastator for use only as a last resort. If we destroy the planet, we lose all resources that could be harvested." Krovak's pincers snapped together loudly, a clear warning sign. "The humans have inflicted unprecedented losses on our fleet. Our Empire's reputation across the galaxy is at stake. We will make an example of Earth that will echo through the cosmos for centuries." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their most populated region. I want maximum civilian casualties. Let all species know the price of defying the Zoraxian Empire." As the Zoraxian fleet approached its firing position, Earth made its move. From the far side of the planet, away from the Zoraxian approach vector, a wave of small spacecraft launched simultaneously. They weren't fighters or conventional warships, but rather hastily modified satellites and orbital platforms. The Zoraxians barely registered these small objects on their sensors. Focused as they were on their primary mission, that was exactly what Admiral Chen had counted on. Operation Blindside is underway. reported Colonel Ramirez. Stealth packages approaching Zoraxian formation from behind. These stealth packages represented humanity's most innovative adaptation of alien technology yet. Each contained a miniature version of the quantum disruption field that had previously scattered the Zoraxian fleet. But with a crucial modification, they were specifically calibrated to the frequency of the planetary devastator weapon. As the packages drew near the Zoraxian formation, they activated simultaneously. There was no visible effect, no explosion or energy discharge, just a subtle ripple in the quantum field surrounding the fleet. On the Zoraxian command ship, alarm suddenly blared. "Commander." The weapons officer called out in distress. "The Devastator is experiencing cascade failures across all systems. Energy containment is fluctuating." Krovak rushed to the weapons console. "Stabilize it immediately." Attempting to compensate, the officer replied, his pincers moving frantically across the controls. "But the interference is on a quantum level. Our diagnostics can't isolate the source." The planetary devastator, a weapon capable of cracking a world's crust, was the most complex and delicate device in the Zoraxian arsenal. It required perfect quantum alignment to function properly. The human disruptors had thrown that alignment into chaos. "Disengage the devastator," ordered Krovak as warning signals intensified. "Power it down before—" He never finished the sentence. Deep within the flagship, the devastator's energy containment field collapsed completely. The resulting explosion tore through the massive vessel, splitting it apart in a blinding flash of light. In the Global Defense Headquarters, a cheer erupted as sensors confirmed the destruction of the Zoraxian flagship. Direct hit on their command ship, Colonel Ramirez confirmed. Devastator weapon self-destructed exactly as our scientists predicted it would. Admiral Chen didn't join the celebration. "Krovak?" "Presumed dead along with the entire command staff," Ramirez replied. Chen nodded solemnly. Despite being enemies, she could respect the Zoraxian commander's determination. "And the rest of their fleet?" "In disarray. With the flagship destroyed and Krovak gone, their command structure has collapsed. Without their fleet commander and with their ultimate weapon destroyed, the Zoraxian vessels fell into confusion. Some began firing randomly at Earth, others turned to flee. A few appeared to be fighting among themselves as sub-commanders disputed control. "Now," said Chen firmly, "launch Operation Final Strike." From hidden bases around the world, Earth's remaining fighters took off. From underwater launch platforms, missiles streaked skyward. From hardened mountain bunkers, energy weapons powered up. It was humanity's final coordinated assault, everything they had left thrown into one massive attack. The disorganized Zoraxian fleet couldn't mount an effective defense. Ship after ship took critical damage or was destroyed outright. Those that could still maneuver began retreating, accelerating away from Earth toward the safety of deep space. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives watched in stunned silence as the once mighty Zoraxian invasion force disintegrated before their eyes. "The humans have done it," High Counselor Vex said quietly. "They've defeated the Zoraxians." "Not just defeated them," added a military advisor. "Routed them completely. This is unprecedented in galactic history." As the last Zoraxian ships fled the solar system, celebrations erupted across Earth. In cities and towns, in military bases and civilian shelters, humans emerged to look up at the sky, a sky still theirs. In the defense headquarters, Admiral Chen allowed herself to slump into a chair, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "Casualty reports," she requested. The numbers were sobering. Millions of civilians dead or injured. Military losses approaching 40%. Infrastructure damage across all continents. It would take years, perhaps decades, to rebuild completely. But Earth had survived. More than survived, it had won. Zalthur approached Chen, his expression solemn but respectful. "Admiral, the Galactic Council requests your presence at an emergency session. They are reconsidering Earth's status within the Council." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Reconsidering how exactly?" "In light of your victory," Zalthur explained. "Many representatives believe Earth deserves full military membership, a status usually reserved for species with at least 5 centuries of interstellar capability." "I see," Chen replied. "And what do you think, Ambassador?" Zalthur's silvery skin rippled in what Chen had come to recall.